Welcome to the Saturday Slam and Jam here on the Athletic NBA Daily. On today's show, we're talking Sixth Man of the Year odds, our Players of the Week, and Law Murray joins to talk about the Los Angeles Clippers. But to start us off, Al, tell me about the top stories this week.
Andrew, while the Dallas Mavericks are unlikely to be raising a championship title banner anytime soon, they are closing in on an improbable run to win the title of most tortured fan base. While it's fun to talk about sports curses, curse of the Bambino, curse of the Billy Goat, the Madden curse, if a team was actually cursed, would it look any different than what is currently happening to the Dallas Mavericks? This week's top story is that Mavs All-Star Kyrie Irving tore his ACL on a drive to the rim, knocking him out for the rest of this season and likely a large chunk of next season as well. In the very next game, a 137-107 loss to the Bucks, the Mavs were only able to suit up 8 players. And to add insult to the many injuries in Dallas, the Mavs franchise announced this week that season ticket prices would be going up next season, a continuation of their new strategy to do the dumbest possible thing they can think of. In other injury news, the Sixers released a statement this week saying that the team and Joel Embiid had consulted with specialists about his troublesome knee and determined that he is medically unable to play and will miss the rest of the season. The team and Embiid are working on a treatment plan with the hope that he will be able to return next season. The Sixers are in full tank mode, having dropped 12 of their last 14. You literally cannot escape bad news for the Mavericks because those 2 Sixers wins over that stretch were a win over the Mavs and a win over Golden State, a game in which former Mav Quentin Grimes scored a career-high 44 points. Meanwhile, Caleb Martin has still not suited up for the Mavericks. The Sixers currently have the same record as the Brooklyn Nets, who have gotten their act together. They've lost 6 in a row, despite almost beating the Warriors on Thursday night. Hot on both of those teams' heels, though, from the bottom of the standings are the Toronto Raptors, only a game back of Philly and Brooklyn, and who, as we will discuss later, are about to embark on the highest degree of difficulty tank job in NBA history. Now, from the bottom of the East standings to the top, the Cleveland Cavaliers have now won 12 games in a row, none more impressive than a 123-116 win over the Celtics in Boston last Friday night. Within 5 minutes of the game starting, the Cavs were down 25-3. While they would close that gap, the Celtics' lead ballooned back to 17 with 8 minutes left in the third. From that point on, however, the Cavs outscored Boston 53-29, led by Donovan Mitchell's 44. Now, Jason Tatum also had a great game. He put up 46, 16, and 9, but it ultimately wasn't enough, and the season series is now tied 2-2. The Celtics would bounce back in the very next game, getting a wire-to-wire home win over the Denver Nuggets. In the race for the league's best record and home court advantage in a potential finals matchup, the Thunder continue to keep pace with Cleveland, winning their last 5 and sitting only a game back of the Cavs. Now, one of those OKC wins was a 120-103 win over the Memphis Grizzlies. The loss was the Grizzlies' 4th in a row, their longest losing streak of the season, but hey, at least it wasn't as devastating as the first 3 losses in that losing streak. In consecutive games against the Knicks, Spurs, and Hawks, the Grizzlies lost by a grand total of 5 points and lost all 3 on last-second buzzer beaters. Against the Knicks, it was a 3 from OG Anunoby with 5 seconds left. Against the Spurs, it was De'Aaron Fox hitting a jumper with 2 seconds left. And against the Hawks, it was Karis LeVert getting a layup as time expired. It was so bad, I almost wondered whether the wheel of fandom had actually landed on the Grizzlies last week. The losses dropped the Grizz to 4th in the West, only a half game up on the Rockets, who remain 3 games up on the Warriors. Finally this week, the Mavs adjacent news is unavoidable yet again because the Lakers continued their winning streak, getting an 8th consecutive win on Thursday night over the Knicks in an incredibly fun overtime game in LA. Luka and LeBron combined for 63 points in the win, giving LA a half-game lead over Denver for 2nd in the West. The Knicks, they've lost 2 in a row, but more importantly, they may have lost Jalen Brunson for a bit. He had a nasty ankle sprain late in that game, did not return to the game after sinking his 2 free throws. As of Friday morning, we don't know how long he might be out, but it didn't look great. LeBron also made history this week by becoming the first member of the 50,000-point club. This is all set up beautifully for a marquee showdown on Saturday between the Lakers and Celtics in Boston on ABC. It doesn't get much better than that, and those were the top stories this week, Andrew.
Some great stories this week. I saw that 3 losses like that happened at the buzzer hasn't happened since the Seattle Supersonics in I think 2003. So it's been like over 20 years since something like that has happened. So it's just insane bad luck. Let's go to our BetMGM line of the week, brought to you by BetMGM. It's the sixth man of the year odds. Peyton Pritchard has kind of had this almost the entire season at a minus 220. We have Malik Beasley at a plus 250. DeAndre Hunter is at a plus 1100. Naz Reid, last year's winner, has very long odds along with Ty Jerome. Russell Westbrook, and Santi Aldama. So, but it feels like Peyton Pritchard's going to get this, and he had quite a game this week.
Yeah, I thought Malik Beasley could maybe make a run, but then Peyton Pritchard went out and dropped 43 in a win over Portland. And it's just like, it's probably him. He hit 10 threes in that game, 10 of 16 from 3-point range. So, I think he's a deserved favorite for sixth man of the year.
Yeah. And that stat that we've all seen, that it had never been done to have two teammates with 40 points in the history of the Celtics, which just seems improbable when you think back at the amount of like good players that have played together, and even the guys that are on the team now. Like those aren't. That's not the duo that you think it would be. It's not the Jays. It's not Paul Pierce and Ray Allen. It's not. I mean, it is wild to me that they're the first ones, but just goofy. I like it.
Before we get to the favorites this week, Andrew, we do have something to address. Some are calling it the biggest scandal in Slam and Jam history. Last week on Andrew versus the Beat, the week winning answer from you, Andrew, was that Dwight Powell was one of the players who had played more than 500 games with only one team. Well, it was pointed out to me shortly thereafter that Dwight Powell did start his career in Boston, and he played 5 games for the Celtics before being included in the Rajon Rondo trade way back in the day. Now, we've had mistakes like this before, but it's never, I don't think, ever affected the outcome. And this is a clear one. This win should have gone to Sam. So we've taken some steps. First of all, I fired the unpaid intern who came up with that question. They won't work in this industry again if I have my way. And then also, as a olive branch to Sam Cooper, the next time he's on the show, he gets a free complimentary point on Andrew versus the Beat. He's going to start out with a 1-point lead. That's pretty good.
That is pretty good.
Points are expensive. They're hard to come by, and that's a free one. We'll just give away so that he doesn't shun us forever. So on to the favorites, Andrew. On to the favorites. Starting with our favorite quote this week, and my favorite quote was from KD, who, after a genuinely miraculous home win, considering what this team has looked like, over these Clippers, where the Suns erased a 19-point deficit in the fourth quarter. Somehow, one of the quotes in Katie's post-game press conference was, quote, "Just get up and leave if you don't feel like watching this team play bad basketball, and we will understand. And that will make us feel even worse, seeing you all getting up and leaving." Whether it's immediately killing the league's new All-Star format the second it's announced, or encouraging fans to leave early after one of the Suns' best wins of the season, you can always count on KD to meet the moment. Honestly, I don't really care about the quote. KD says a lot of stuff, and most of it I find very funny. But I did want to bring it up as an excuse to talk about that win, because we had the Suns as our Wheel of Fandom team last week, and frankly, it was miserable. And things didn't seem like they were getting much better this week. John Gambadoro out in Arizona reported that inside the Suns organization, Coach Bud is miserable to deal with. We saw an argument, a verbal altercation between KD and Bud on the sidelines during a game. But hey, for one night against a good Western Conference team, this Suns team played legitimately hard after Stan Van Gundy had been complaining about their defensive effort the entire night. They got their fans into it. KD was on fire. I'm sure Suns fans will have ample opportunities to follow KD's instructions and leave a Suns game early the rest of the season. But it was nice to see Suns fans have this one moment of respite, a moment to just enjoy a fun basketball game and ignore the impending doom that is hanging over this franchise.
There's so much good stuff coming out of the Phoenix Suns. Like there were multiple quotes that I considered that were coming out from Phoenix. My quote this week comes from Cam Thomas. I don't know if you saw this, but he was asked whether if he changed his approach the last 2 games because he's been averaging 6.5 assists a game. And he said, nah, I've been doing that. They're just making it. That's how assists are. I pass it and my teammates got to make it. And they're making it. So it goes on the stat sheet as an assist, which like makes me first think about Taurean Prince when he was at Baylor, when he was asked about rebounding and like how his team got out rebounded, and he just explained what a rebound is, which is really funny. And the second thing I thought of was, is this actually true? Is it actually true that he would average 6.5 assists per game? And so I decided to dig in a little bit. These stats are very easy to find on NBA.com/stats. And the last 2 games, Cam Thomas is averaging 33 passes per game with 10.5 potential assists per game. Pretty interesting. So I looked at pre-All-Star break, which is a lot more games than 2. He actually is averaged more passes pre-All-Star break with 34 passes per game. But, drum roll, how many potential assists were in there? Only 5.9 to the 10.5 that he's had. So, gotcha, Cam. Gotcha. We have a liar here in the NBA. His name's Cam Thomas. Liar.
I think he's a hooper. That's a hooper quote.
It's a hooper quote.
I love that. That would be shocking if suddenly post All-Star break, Cam Thomas is putting up 6 assists per game.
6.5 assists.
Obviously it's only 2 games, but that would be shocking, and I would have felt bad for not picking him. Okay, moving on to our favorite stat. I've got a big one this week. This is a stat that has to do with opponent shooting. Now, if you've been paying any attention this season, you know that OKC, they're having quite a nice defensive season. But lately, that vaunted defense just hasn't been looking quite as good. Per Cleaning the Glass, over the last 2 weeks, the Thunder have the 17th ranked defense. Now, that's a far stretch from being the number 1 overall defense and number 1 overall by a mile for the majority of this season. Now, they've still gone 7-1 over that stretch, in part because they've had the 2nd ranked offense during those 8 games. But the defense hasn't been quite as good. So what's going on? Well, part of it is they're trying to integrate Chet back in, and specifically playing him along Isaiah Hartenstein in these double big lineups that, frankly, he hasn't really played with. I mean, even last year, we had it was 40 minutes or something with J. Will or something in those double big lineups. I don't remember what it was, but it was a very low amount. So this is really his first time to get an extended run in a double big lineup. And in those 114 minutes so far, super small sample, OKC has posted a 117 defensive rating. Not what a lot of OKC fans might have expected. But part of the reason for that, and OKC's larger defensive slump, has been that their opponents have started making their threes. Prior to the last 2 weeks, OKC's opponents were shooting 32.9% overall from 3 and 35.3% on wide open threes, which is when the defender is at least 6 feet away. Now, both of those marks were the lowest in the league. In fact, if that 32.9 number had held up for the entire season, it would have been the lowest since the KD Warriors in 2017, which I didn't remember this, but their opponents, as if they needed more luck, Andrew, their opponents that year shot 32.4% from 3, which is kind of wild.
Wow.
Now, we know that there is some luck involved in opponent 3-point shooting. And over the last 2 weeks, that luck has turned against OKC. During this stretch, Thunder opponents are shooting 37.6% from 3 overall, and more importantly, 42.5% on wide open threes. As a side note, Andrew, what team's opponents are shooting the worst on wide open threes over the last 2 weeks? Do you know? Could you guess?
Is it the Lakers?
It's the Lakers, the Los Angeles Lakers, whose opponents are shooting a very sustainable 30.4% on wide open threes over this recent stretch. Yes, a crazy number. And I haven't looked at it since the Knicks game, but I think the Knicks shot 25% from 3. So I'm guessing that number went down.
That sounds like it went down.
All of this isn't to say that the Thunder defense isn't a great defense, just that they have gotten some shooting luck so far this season, and that has shifted over the past couple weeks. I wouldn't totally dismiss the double big lineup just because the defensive numbers haven't looked good, because it may have more to do with some shooting luck so far. You know, in those early Chet Hartenstein minutes, teams are shooting just under 40% from 3 overall. One last thing. if you think OKC's opponent 3-point shooting was lucky, wait until you hear what's happening in Boston this season. Because on shots that NBA.com classifies as open threes, so that's where the defender is 4 to 6 feet away from the shooter, Celtics opponents are currently shooting 29.9% this season on over 13 attempts per game. Now, for context, the Charlotte Hornets, who are number 2 on that list, are holding opponents to 31.7% on open threes. That 29.9% mark would be the lowest since the 2014-15 season, when the Houston Rockets held opponents to 28.1% on open threes. The only other time a team has held opponents under 30% on open threes. So, you know, if you're a Celtics fan and all of a sudden the Celtics are in more close games, or maybe they're dropping a few, it might be because the shooting luck has just turned a little bit on those open threes. So Those are my favorite stats this week.
Wow, that's wild. My favorite stat this week is from the team out of California with the second best net rating since the All-Star break.
Oh,
and that's right. It's the team we're all thinking of. It's the Sacramento Kings. The Kings, since the All-Star break, are 4-2 with a net rating of 11.8, with the 5th best defense and the 5th best offense, which is a little bit surprising. They currently sit at 9th in the West, just half game back of 8th. And I'm sure many of you are sitting back thinking, man, the Kings have not really played anybody since the All-Star break. And you are correct. These 4 wins have come against the Hornets, Jazz, Rockets, and Mavs. And according to Tankathon, things might get pretty dicey here for them. They have the second most difficult schedule down the stretch. So I'm just going to be honest. I just honestly wanted to get something positive about the Kings out before this really terrible stretch comes for Sacramento. The duo of DeRozan and Levine have been averaging nearly 50 points per game. Keegan Murray's shooting 43% from 3. Valanciunas is balling. And a lot of this has been without Sabonis, who's been dealing with a grade 1 hamstring injury. But listen, today you can turn to a friend and you can say, hey, did you know the Kings are 3rd in net rating since the All-Star break? And that friend won't care at all about that, but you will know it as you head into the weekend.
That is very surprising. That would be a good 1 week trivia question. Because I would have never guessed that.
It is not going to last, but listen, Kings fans can ride high going into the weekend.
We'll see. Favorite player this week, my favorite player was Kobe White. It was a great week for Kobe. He averaged nearly 30 points per game, but it was what he did in the 4th quarter on Thursday night against the Magic that made him my favorite player. He scored a career high 44 in the game, but in the 4th alone, he scored 17, including the final 9 points for Chicago over the final 4 minutes. He was hitting threes. He had a big dunk on a pass from Buzelis. He had this really athletic steal with 2 minutes left. So he hits a 3, putting the Bulls up 2. He's on the other side of the paint. He sprints to the opposite sideline, picks off the pass, throws it back in bounds as he goes in the Orlando Magic bench. I just really enjoy watching Kobe White because I do think he's an underrated, fun guy to watch when he's on a heater. You know, Steph is obviously the king of that. You know, Steph on a heater is the greatest thing in the NBA. But Kobe White, I think he's a little underrated as when he's on a heater. He's just very fun to watch. He's an emotional guy. I just really enjoy watching Kobe White. And I was so glad that I just happened to have this random Bulls Magic game on that I was half paying attention to most of the time. Then that 4th quarter hit and it was just oh man, he made another shot and there's another one. And then you lock in and it was just a blast.
Yeah. Some of it too is the hair. The hair's going everywhere. That helps. There's something
helps.
Really
it makes it more
fun. Yeah. You mentioned Steph Curry. Have you seen his pre and post All-Star break splits?
We should have picked him for a post All-Star break bounce.
I guess we should have, because
Steph Curry.
Dude, listen to this. So pre All-Star break, 23 points, 4.5 rebounds, 6 assists. That's fine. Post, 28 points per game, 4 rebounds, 7.7 assists. He was a plus 3.6 pre All-Star break. He's a plus 22.6 post All-Star break. And his true shooting went from 59.7 to 71.3.
Jeez.
Post All-Star break. He has been unbelievable. He's shooting 45% from 3 in that stretch, 53% overall from the field, up from 43%, 10 percentage points better. He has been rejuvenated. And watching him last night, man, he's doing just crazy stuff again. He did the turnaround from basically half court to end a quarter, and he just looks like he's got a pep in his step now. And that should be scary for the rest of the NBA because he looks, I mean, during this stretch, he's looked like a top 5 player again, which has been kind of cool because I think LeBron has kind of rejuvenated himself in the same way since the trade deadline. And we've seen that from Steph. And so I just think that the Western Conference playoffs could be really interesting with both Steph and LeBron playing at such a high level. Now, both teams have really got to like stay engaged through the rest of the season, which I think could backfire on them a little bit just because they're not going to really have time to rest just because the rest of the Western Conference is so tight. But it is really fun watching Steph Curry right now. Like he's definitely been on a heater since the trade deadline and certainly since after the All-Star break.
Yeah, I hadn't really been thinking about them. Like I assumed like, okay, they're going to be the 6th seed now. They're on a nice little run. But now you start looking at like the 5 seed and they're still 3 games back. But those 2 teams ahead of them, Houston and Memphis, they just haven't been good lately. Memphis is 3-7 in their last 10. Houston's 5-5 in their last 10. You know, none of those teams have like a super hard or super easy schedule. They're all kind of in there in the middle. So I'm interested to see what Golden State could do, because even a game like last night, it's, you know, they won by 2 points over Brooklyn.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they were super impressive, but they continue stacking up these wins other than the loss to Philly, which was a really terrible loss. So they've got some tough ones coming up. They would be a great team to get on Wheel of Fandom because their next week is Detroit, Portland, Sacramento, Knicks, and then Denver. That's a nice little run. And then the Bucks. Ooh, after that too. So yeah, I'm really interested to see like how real is this team, because they're racking up the wins, but some of these games where I'm kind of expecting them to like fully dominate, I'm not seeing it quite yet. Like in that Nets game. All right. Last thing is our favorite moment. And my favorite moment this week, other than the end of Lakers Knicks, which was pretty incredible, was the ending of Raptors Magic. Now, for any fan who's ever rooted for a team that's tanking, you know that you are setting yourself up for one of these moments. Like once you've bought into your team needing to lose, you've made your peace with it. Inevitably, you'll experience a strange moment when you want your team to lose. It seems pretty clear that your team wants your team to lose, and yet they still win. For me, it was a game a few years ago between the Thunder and Blazers in Portland, where Isaiah Roby hit a 3 to send this pitiful game into overtime, a game that neither team wanted to win. If I remember correctly, at the end of overtime, the Blazers could have like inbounded the ball and try to hit like a deep shot, and they just didn't.
They ran the clock out.
They just ran the clock out.
Incredible. And poor Isaiah Roby afterwards is just getting it on Twitter from people.
I know.
And he's like, it's like the best moment of his NBA career, and people are just dogging on him like, how could you do this?
It was genuinely like the funniest game I've ever attended, because I went with a Blazers fan who similarly wanted his team to lose. I wanted my team to lose. So we're rooting for each other's teams. And the way that game ended was just very funny. So I was alerted to this Raptors game by Blake Murphy. He posted that the Raptors were closing with Jared Rhoden, who was recently signed to a 2-way, Orlando Robinson, just converted to a standard contract, AJ Lawson, who's on a 2-way, and then 2 rookies, Jacoby Walter and Jamal Shed. Now, this was a close game. Emmanuel Quickley played in this game. Jakob Poeltl played in this game. Scotty Barnes played in this game. RJ Barrett played in this game. All those players were theoretically available to close this game out, but that is who Toronto went with. So I saw that post. I knew I had to lock in. And then the best thing ever happened, which is that rookie Jacoby Walter hits a game-winning 3 as time expires, giving the Raptors a 114-113 win/loss, depending on your opinion. Now, I kind of assumed that the Raptors would just play out this season, since Masai's been somewhat vocal in the past about not liking tanking. But based on this game, they seem very open to the idea, which is hilarious to me, because their end of season schedule is the hardest schedule ever if your goal is to lose games. The average winning percentage of their 20 remaining opponents is .357. That is the equivalent to a 29-win team that they are playing every night.
Doesn't make sense.
For context, the opponent's winning percentage for this second easiest schedule, which is Atlanta, is .434. 357 versus 434. Now, I know some people hate tanking. It's bad for the game, whatever. But if the Raptors somehow pulled this off and don't pass Philly and Brooklyn in the standings, I personally would rank this second to the 2019 title when listing Masai's accomplishments, because there's no way this is going to work. They have a better chance of being the 10 seed than staying in their current draft position. But yeah, I really hope they go for it, because this end of season schedule is setting up some epic tank battles. And if Toronto is going all out too, this could be some of the worst March basketball we've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And my guy S. Barahini, rooting for these losses out there. I feel for him a little bit. It's gonna be tough. Like, can you imagine looking, part of like the struggle, I think, even as like watching a team that's tanking, is looking ahead to the schedule and like trying to map out the losses that are there. Like, this one just got to make you just feel just sick to your stomach. Like the rest of this, it's so bad. My moment this week is probably actually my least favorite moment, and not my favorite moment. It goes to Draymond Green. And by now, probably everybody's seen Draymond's comments about Karl Anthony Towns, saying that he didn't play against the Warriors because, quote, Jimmy was in the building, when the truth was that Towns was at a funeral that day for a close family friend. And so when Draymond was later confronted with the truth in a press conference, this is what he said to reporters. "Oh man, that's unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear that. That sucks. But my comments that I made was that what I heard was this, and that's what I heard. So I do send my well wishes to his family. We all experience death one way or another, and we'll all experience it the same way one day. So it's unfortunate. You never wish that on anybody, but the Draymond Green show with Baron Davis must go on. I definitely wish them well and wish their family well. You know, we all go through that, and it's never easy for anyone. But the Draymond Green show with Baron Davis will go on." What? The same guy that literally had the words "baffling narrative" in the title of one of his podcasts in this last week tries to double down on a baffling narrative that Towns is ducking Jimmy Butler, even when given the facts, even when told the truth about it. Instead of saying, like, you know what? I really messed up there. I shouldn't have said that. I'd heard I heard that was maybe a possibility. You know what? I really want to apologize for that. Instead, he doubles down and then uses it as a way to promote his podcast. What? The fact that Draymond Green repeated a lie and then faced with the truth, doesn't apologize, but just tries to promote his podcast, just makes me feel so sick. Like, it's just disgusting. And did Draymond know that earlier this season that Towns went for 44, 13, and 2 against a Jimmy Butler-led Heat team this season? He did that this season. This is just an absolute joke. Like, what an absolute clown. And it's frustrating because we know that he's kind of next in line as far as like the next players to be media members. And stuff like this just makes you like not have hope for the future of what's going to happen with like these quote unquote narratives in this league. It's just really frustrating to see. Especially, I almost feel like it's a Mandela effect, where I could have sworn that Draymond was good when he first started like getting on TNT. Like, in my head, I remember thinking, oh man, he's so good. But now I don't know if that is true or not, if that actually happened, because it feels like now that he's, doing the podcast, he's been on TNT more often, he's just becoming one of those guys. He's just becoming another one of those guys. And we all think that Draymond's really smart. Like, I know that he could be a good analyst, but it does feel like he's just become another one of the type of guy that we have thousands of. We have thousands of these guys. Yeah. It's just an absolute joke. But something that's not a joke. Talking to our guy, Law Murray, right after this quick break.
All right, Andrew, it is time for the Wheel of Fandom, the weekly segment where we spin a wheel, it lands on a team, and that team loses the majority of its games. This week, the wheel landed on the Los Angeles Clippers. And the Clippers lost their first 3 games of the week, 2 against the Lakers and 1 against the Suns, a game in which the Clippers led by 19 entering the fourth quarter. The week ended on a high note, however, as the Clippers got a much-needed win at home against the red-hot Pistons, 123-115. James Harden scored a season-high 50 points in the game, his first 50-point game since December 2019. Now, despite the win, the Clippers have only won 2 of their last 8. They currently sit in 8th place in the West at 33-29. Per Cleaning the Glass, the Clippers have the 21st ranked offense and the 4th ranked defense. Andrew, if the Clippers are our favorite team, who is our guest?
There's only one option. It's Law Murray from The Athletic. My good friend. Law, what's up?
What's up, guys? I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be home. Do you see how many games we're away from LA during that stretch, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That is a lot.
Now, do you count the Lakers games as away games?
No. Oh, as away games? Yes, absolutely. All right.
Like no. Yeah.
But that's the wrong kind of anticipation. That's another. That right there. That's how you get a pick six. When you are so obviously the Clippers used to play in that arena. They very much do not now. Like you go in the locker room, like the visitors' locker room at that arena is one of the worst in the league. And I've been around the league. I've been in the Intuit Dome visitors' locker room. You absolutely feel like a visitor. I think it's about how do you feel when you're there. So on one hand, you're local, you're at home and everything, but I mean, that's not your building. The hospitality is not the same. I think the Clippers players and coaches felt like they were on the road even before Intuit Dome when they were playing in that arena. So it just fits in.
Okay, before we get into our real questions, I just want to know what the coolest thing about the Intuit Dome is. Like, what's like the things that we can't see? So, like, we see all the cool stuff on TV. We know the Jumbotron is really cool. We know about the wall. But, like, what's the coolest thing that people don't know about with Intuit?
I mean, shoot, I'm a hooper, man. Like, I love just going there, and before I even go to the media entrance, it's a basketball court outside, big screen and everything, like. I mean, if that team ever gets to a point where they can actually be in the finals, kind of like how the Milwaukee Bucks were in the finals, and you saw Deer District, right? COVID and everything. You still saw all those people outside and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like the space for it would be incredible. Like the plaza is like I love coming in there. It's like it was raining yesterday and they had some car promotion. So, I didn't really touch the court, but like, first time in 3 weeks, and it was like, man, this is like I love just being at the plaza with the basketball court there. Like, I'll just come and I'll shoot with whoever's out there. You know what I'm saying? You can be like, yo, meet me at Intuit Dome's outside court. Like, me and ticket holders just trying to make a left hand layup. You know what I'm saying?
That's amazing. So the Clippers week ended with a bang. James Harden dropped 50 against Detroit, the first 50-point game for the Clippers since Lou Williams in 2018, and only the 8th 50-point game in Clippers franchise history. What stood out to you about Harden's game against Detroit?
Listen, man, James Harden made NBA history as far as I'm concerned. You've never seen a player that old on a second night of a back-to-back win a game with a 50 burger. Like, and it was, the desperation was profound, like that dude had 23 points in the first quarter. He doesn't average that for a game this season. I think people got to realize that. Like, James has been doing a lot, but like, I love watching old stars, man, because they, in their mind, feel like they can do this whenever they want. And they're just like, well, I just sacrificed for the game. And, I picked my spots. It's like, he actually did that thing. Like, we scored 23 points in the first quarter. I was like, all right, you know what? It's second night of the back-to-back. This second half is going to be ugly. And no, he pushed through. And not only that, he left room for his teammates to still be able to contribute as well. Zoo had another 20-point game. Bogdan Bogdanovic, who he has these ups and downs that are crazy. He went from not shooting. He didn't attempt a single shot in the fourth quarter in Phoenix on Tuesday night to making 2 big threes and then, a shot that put the Clippers up 10 in the fourth quarter. That was huge. That's why they got that dude. So it's not just that he had 50. He was efficient. He had 50 points on 24 field goal attempts. He got to the line 20 times. That's more than the entire Detroit team. And we can always look back and always be like, well, I've seen this before. He did it in Houston. That was another decade ago. It's 2025 and he's doing this. You know what I'm saying? So I thought it was a heroic performance. It was absolutely needed. It's like we always talk about how we can't take guys and what they're able to do for granted. Like, this is for real. Like, he hadn't done it at all in Brooklyn, at all in Philly, and not at all as a Clipper until Wednesday night.
Yeah, I think if people haven't been following it, you hear 14 to 24, you're like, yeah, James Harden's done that before. Those 3 previous games that we watched this week, he was 14 of 50 in those 3 games combined, and then comes to that 4th game and gets 14 and 24. So the Clippers felt like they were kind of locked into that top 6 spot for a really long time, really large part of this season until this recent downturn. Has this run exposed any significant issues to you beyond the fact that just Norm Powell's missing a lot of these games? Like, is this mostly just a factor of Norm Powell being gone?
I always say that injury is not an excuse for substandard performance, right? And Norman Powell, he hasn't been able to play, and they're missing him badly because it's not just that he scores, it's how he scores. Like, he doesn't need to dominate the basketball. He fits incredibly well with a guy like James, because while James is orchestrating, Norman is moving, respotting up, or you can put him in actions that get him going downhill. He scores in transition. Most importantly, that dude scores in the fourth quarter. Like, when everybody else is falling out because they're 35 years old or they've been playing defense all game long, Norman is getting buckets. So yeah, they're missing that. They've had Kawhi for a lot of those games, but Kawhi's missed some time. And Kawhi hasn't played well in the fourth quarter. Kawhi has not finished these games well. It's inspiring that he's back and playing. That's a good thing, but I think people are kind of over it at this point with, that part of his recovery. He's got to now show that he can complete and finish these games and lead this team to wins. Maybe that comes this month. It better come this month. I think the biggest thing that's been, if you want to say expose, Al, is the fact that this is a team that needs defense to win games. Like, they are a top 5 defense throughout the season. That's admirable. What hasn't been admirable is they have not been that team, not just since this time that they've been losing post All-Star break, but I think the defense started to slip even before that. I think the defense, the last quarter of January, going into the trade deadline, going into the All-Star break, I don't think they have defended at nearly as high a level, and they need to find a way to get that back. And a lot of that is energy. When you are having fewer guys, when guys are being asked to step up, when you change your rotation and guys are now trying to adjust to, defending in a team concept in ways that they weren't defending on their previous teams, or in Kawhi's case, going from not playing for 8 months to all of a sudden playing for Jeff Van Gundy's defense. I think that there's been some challenges there. So whether the Clippers get that back, it remains to be seen. That's what makes all these games in March relevant.
Yeah, you touched on Kawhi a little bit. He did play 3 of the 4 games this week, reaching his 20th game played this season. How far along do you think he is compared to where he was last year?
I mean, it's pretty far. And the hope is that he can approach that level of play that made him an All-NBA selection this month. Like, they need it. This is why the Clippers, they took a very aggressive approach as far as getting him ready for what they thought they had not ever gotten from Kawhi since Tyronn Lue took over as head coach, and that is to finish a playoff. He has not played the last game for the Clippers, before exit interviews, since the bubble. And so you look at the approach that they took with Kawhi and look at what the Philadelphia 76ers did with Olympic gold medalist Joel Embiid, and I'm always going to compare that because Paul George was in one situation, then went to the other situation. the Sixers they weren't really forthcoming about Joel's condition. The Clippers were like, he's not playing until he's 100%. And you know what? Kawhi's been back for 2 months and he hasn't had a recurring issue with that knee. You know, his minutes have increased. His performance, like the progress hasn't been linear. You know, there's been ups, there's been downs, but he has continued to feel like he's stronger. He keeps reassuring people, I'm good. You know, even though when that guy falls, it's like watching a robot fall out of the sky. Like, you know, you wonder if the damn thing is still working right. But no, Kawhi is a player who, even when he has his bad games, he doesn't get too broken up about it. He's like, I miss free throws. I'm just going to get back to the line and I'm going to get right back at it. You know, he has that to him. His mental approach is fantastic. And he's done everything that he was supposed to do. I know that weight was wearing on him, but the weight worked to this point. Obviously, again, he's just got to get his team to the playoffs now and then through a playoffs. The performance at a high level, what I think needs to happen is and I think we've seen some sparks of this in the last week or so. He has started to have less fear going to the rim, going to the paint. I thought he had a dunk against the Phoenix Suns, dunk in traffic that I hadn't seen all year. You know, I was talking to you guys last year where we were talking about how much he was dunking, right? He wound up setting a career high for dunks in the season. That was a show that we did last year. And I love dunks, man. Dunks are health. If I can, when I dunk, I'm like, I find a stranger and I'll be like, yo, film this in case I do this again. You know, so
dunks are health. I like that line.
Absolutely. So I think the key is, you know, Kawhi Leonard is feeling his best when he's attacking the basket with reckless abandon. That has not happened often enough. It's got to be that, and it's got to be better performance in fourth quarters.
Yeah, it's kind of wild to think back the conversation around Kawhi at the beginning of the season and consider that he played 37 minutes plus in these last three games. I know he sat out the second night of the back-to-back against Detroit, but I just would have never guessed that even if he was going to come back, the fact that that second Lakers game, he's playing 40 minutes, which just kind of blows my mind. And looks, starting to look better. I did want to ask you about Bogdanović because he was not looking great in Atlanta before the trade deadline, having his worst professional season. He's now played 10 games for the Clippers, and he just had probably his best game as a Clipper, tied his season high with 23 points against the Pistons. What have you thought about his play so far and kind of his fit with this Clippers roster?
Man, Bogey is a pleasure to cover. I will say that. I love learning about players who are open about their process of adjusting to their basketball responsibilities. And the Clippers, Lawrence Frank was pretty forthcoming about the fact that Bogey has not had a strong season, with the Atlanta Hawks. And when the trade happened, my first reactions, I posted on social media about his age, the lower body injuries that he's had, the time that he's missed this season, the percentages being far off what we expected and seen for him for years in Atlanta. And the thing that I've learned the most about basketball in my time since joining The Athletic is the process of how you get your numbers is really how we should be telling the story of these teams and these players and how these rosters are put together. So the Clippers didn't value Bogey because of his poor numbers this year. They valued him because even though the ball hasn't found the bottom of the net as much, he plays a style that they felt like they needed. They were like, we don't look at him as just a shooter or just a scorer. We can ask him to be in a variety of actions that will make him comfortable and that they needed. They had Bogey so that they could move on from Kevin Porter Jr. Because that was a matter of flexibility in the short term and in the long term. They wound up using Marjan Bojack's contract. They let him go to promote a guy like Jordan Miller. So for Bogey, he can be wide open and he'll miss a ton of shots. Last week when we was in Detroit, I think he missed 11 out of 12 threes or something like that. And you know what? That dude taking 12 threes in a game is encouraging. You want your players to continue to shoot. You want guys to have that confidence that you'll make the next one, even if you're off. The shots selection wasn't bad. He just wasn't making shots. He turns around the next game in Chicago, makes shots. You look at how he played last, against the Pistons the second time around. He made shots. He made big shots. That's what's valuable to the Clippers. So it's the fact that he can be a ball handler. He can be a spot up guy. He can be a movement guy. He can be a pick pop kind of guy. He's comfortable in a variety of actions, and he's not afraid to play the game. Those are all the things that the Clippers value. The performance is up and down. He's been targeted on defense quite a bit, but he's 6'5", 220. It's not like he's a 6'2" guard. So, some guys can target him, and other guys are like, they're not going to target him as much as you would a liability of a smaller size. So when he's good, he's been incredibly helpful for the Clippers. They just need a little bit more consistency.
Yeah. So there was a little bit of news this week for the Clippers. Jordan Miller, as you mentioned, was signed to a 4-year, $8.3 million deal. He's played under 400 minutes this season, and so a lot of people probably don't know much about him. But how would you describe his game and what you think his role could be for this team moving forward?
I think the most surprising thing about Jordan Miller, for those who watched him at the U, is his appetite for scoring, his ability to draw fouls, get downhill. He's been a sponge. I mean, he has played with free throw merchants, James Harden and Norman Powell, and he's picked up a lot. And my thing with young players is, you've got summer league, you've got the preseason, you've got, in a lot of these guys' case, they'll get thrown in the G League because they're not in a rotation. They're on a 2-way contract. Maybe they'll get some bites in garbage time. Jordan learned a lot from his rookie training camp to his second training camp. And he had the confidence that he could be a rotation player. And then he got a chance to be a rotation player, played well, and then he winds up on scouting reports. People see what he can do. And he got, he needed to make another adjustment. So I'm happy for him that he got his opportunity. I think the Clippers are going to have him continue to, he has to expand his game offensively if he's going to approximate any of the numbers that you see from him against lower competition. They also want him to be a better defender, but he has the tools to be an effective defender. He has an incredible wingspan for a 6'6" player, and he plays the game the right way. He has the right approach, and it's just a matter of the next time that dude gets real minutes, he has to take advantage of it. So, the Clippers don't have, as guys connected to the Thunder as well as you do. The Clippers don't exactly have a wealth of assets to add young players to the team. Clipper fans, they'll get excited for any second round pick that has any level of, viability going past their rookie deal. So shout out to Jordan for earning that, but the journey is not over for him. He's got to keep improving.
Yeah. I was just also curious for our last question, like, what do expectations look like for the Clippers right now? I feel like this team never gets talked about. Like, no one ever talks about them. You look at the top 10 teams in the league, and I feel like I've heard a lot about everybody else, but the Clippers just get skipped over by everybody, as like almost as if they're invisible within this thing. I just don't know what the expectations are for them. Now they've fallen into the play-in. Is the hope to just get to a first round series and try to be competitive? Do they think they can win a series? Where are the expectations for this team?
The thing with the Clippers is they are in a place that, sports fans hate. They want their teams to obviously be good, definitely be in the playoffs, lie to me and tell me you're winning a championship. That's the green light, right? And then the yellow light is to be absolutely terrible, but have some young dudes that you can say they're yours. If you're a Hornets fan, you're terrible. You don't need to invest so much time. You can be a family person and whatnot, but you can brag about LaMelo Ball being your representative. You know what I'm saying? Dallas Mavericks fans hate their team because no matter what level of talent they've acquired, and none of that talent is actually playing, they had a guy who was theirs, and they no longer have that. Oklahoma City Thunder fans, look, they have a bunch of young guys, but the guy who ties it all together and makes them dream they can do anything is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a guy that the Clippers had. Clippers fans still rue the day that they don't have that dude. So they don't have the young player. Their era for contending realistically has come and gone. They'll still tell you that Kawhi and James are winners, and they are. They are winners in the regular season. They get teams to the playoffs, but do they win championships? That version of Kawhi, we don't know if that guy can be that guy. We're literally talking about the expectations being, can you just play a full playoff series? Like, that's where it is. They are very happy about, I don't want to say happy, because happy means you've won a championship. So happy is not the best word for it, but they are cognizant and proud of the fact that they haven't had a losing season since 2011. That's the longest active streak in the NBA currently, and they are 9 wins away from getting to 42 wins. That would extend that streak. That says a lot when your expectations were this low. You lost a star in Paul George. You lost a hometown guy in Russell Westbrook. You didn't have Kawhi, for most of the first half of the season. James is at his advanced age, and you are asking him to carry a lot with the team that they put together, but they put a competitive team together. And I think they want to get a playoff series. It's the first year of Intuit Dome. When you build an arena like that, you want to have the biggest games. You want to have moments on it. You want those that national TV spotlight. And they are in position to do those things, but it's more than likely going to require to play in tournament. And I don't think they're shying away from that. I think they see what the Western Conference is. They know what the state of their team is with the injuries and whatnot. And I think if they get a playoff series, it's a triumph, because those predictions in October said that the Clippers weren't going to be in the spot that they are in currently. And I think if you're a Clippers fan, you're listening to the ownership, you're listening to the management, and you're tricking yourself into thinking, we can do something. And then you're disappointed when they lose 6 out of 7. It's a very weird, tough spot to be, but I don't think that anyone is rattled as far as the brain trust. The head coach knows what it is. The general manager, the front office know what it is. And even Steve, Steve's chilling. He's happy. He just watched the game with Obama. Like, he ain't tripping. Get that team to the playoffs, and I don't think anybody's going to be upset about how the season finishes from there.
Well, Law, thank you for answering all of our Clippers questions. But now it's time to play Andrew versus the Beat, our weekly trivia show where Andrew goes head-to-head against a beat writer. And this week, it is Law Murray, Clippers beat writer for The Athletic. Law, you've played this before. I've come up with 8 questions related to the Clippers. Some are easy, some are hard. You're going to give me a number between 1 and 8. If you get it right, you'll get at least 2 points. If you get it wrong, Andrew will have a chance to steal for 1, and we'll go back and forth till all the questions have been asked and answered. So, Law, to start us off, all I need is a number between 1 and 8.
Let's go with 8.
Question number 8, the final one. The Clippers take 32.8% of their shots from the mid-range, the 6th highest percentage in the league. Name 2 of the 5 teams that take a higher percentage of their shots from mid-range than the Clippers. So Clippers are number 6. There's 5 teams ahead of them. So mid-range Kings. You got to give me 2 of those 5 teams.
Well, you just gave me 1, so we're going to go with the Kings.
Oh!
And we're going to go with the Suns.
That is correct, Law.
You didn't mean it that way.
Law, listen, Law, you better sweep this based on this article that you wrote a couple weeks ago. That was like, by the way, like outstanding writing and like a really, really cool project. But you better sweep this. I'm putting the pressure on you.
I need a leaderboard. This is my 4th time on this show. 4th or 5th time.
Do you know? Yeah, somebody on Blue Sky asked me if I could give him the overall records from the last 3 years. And I was like, no, I cannot do that.
Word.
But I could theoretically go back and find out.
I was going to say, one day when I'm really bored, I'll go and tally it up.
I was about to say, y'all are a franchise now, okay? Especially at The Athletic. Like, you guys got to start acting like it, damn it.
Any guesses on the other 3 teams, just for fun? Anyone? Mid-range teams? Andrew, you can throw out a name. You're not getting any points, but you can throw out a name.
You're not getting any points. Mid-range. Goodness.
I'm going to guess Oklahoma City.
I don't know.
Oklahoma City, they're like 7 or 8. The other teams, Indiana, Memphis, and Dallas. Dallas.
Dallas. Interesting.
Okay, Andrew, board is yours. You're already down.
Number 1.
Question number 1. James Harden had a 15-assist game this week against the Suns. Who were the last 2 Clippers before James Harden to have a 15-assist game? And you get 1 point per correct answer.
Last 2.
Last 2 before James Harden.
Chris Paul? Is that crazy?
Andrew, that is incorrect. Law, you can steal 2 points here.
See, that was too easy of an answer to be correct.
So it is the last 2 Clippers before James Harden to have a 15-assist game. And Chris Paul was incorrect.
Chris Paul kind of gives
you a hint.
John Wall and Russell Westbrook.
Woo! That is correct for 2 points. Wow. Andrew, it's not looking good so far. You're down 4-0 after 2 questions, and Law has control of the board.
And on Shaq's birthday. This is terrible.
Oh, no, Andrew, I had no idea.
You should know because it's Dane's birthday. Come on.
Number 5.
Question number 5. There are 19 two-man lineups that have played at least 500 minutes together for the Clippers. Which 2 players are in the worst of those 19 lineups with a minus 3.6 net rating? And you do get 1 point per correct name.
You said 19...
19 two-man lineups, and this is basically the worst of those 19 two-man lineups. Who are the 2 players in that lineup?
2 players in that lineup. Let's go with Kevin Porter and Amir Coffey.
That is incorrect. Going by your first name, Andrew. You can steal 2 points here, Andrew. Get back in the game.
Anybody that's played on the team this year?
Yeah.
Or are they current guys?
Anyone who's played on the team.
Okay. Bogdan?
That is also incorrect, Andrew. Correct answers. Now, Law's second answer was correct, Amir Coffey. But unfortunately, your first answer was incorrect. So you didn't get the points. The other name, James Harden. James Harden, Amir Coffey.
Harden. Wow, just Amir Coffey. Just one little coffee.
Andrew, you have control of the board. You're down by 4. You have to start making a comeback, Andrew, or this is going to be a blowout. You can't be embarrassed on Shaq's birthday.
I know.
Right. Ivica Zubac has 133 dunks so far this season. Who was the last Clipper, other than Zubac, to have that many dunks in a season?
133.
So it's got to be a big dunker.
That's a lot of. That's a lot of dunks.
It is a lot of dunks, especially at this part of the season.
Yeah,
you still got 20 games to go.
Yeah, I mean, there's some obvious dunkers, but it's been a while, and there's going to be some sneaky dunker that I'm not thinking of.
Oh, a sneaky dunker
that I'm not thinking of. That's going to be the answer.
Dunks are health.
Dunks are health. Okay. Shoot. I don't want to be dumb and guess the obvious answer again, because that was what happened with the Chris Paul thing. It was like, oh, Andrew will get it. What about Montrezl Harrell?
Oh, there you go, Andrew. 2 points. That is correct.
Yes.
Wow.
Didn't want to be an idiot and say Blake Griffin, you know.
Oh, I thought you were going to say DeAndre.
Those are the 2 that like pop in your mind of like all, you know, off the jump. But yeah.
Okay, Law, you now have to protect your lead. Andrew's cut it in half.
Let's go 7.
Question number 7. In his 4th season with the Clippers, Norm Powell is already 8th on the franchise's all-time list for three-pointers made.
Wow.
We're going to name the 7 Clippers who are ahead of Norm. And how this works, Law, you're going to give me a name, then Andrew will give me a name, and we'll go back and forth till one of you stumbles. So, Law, we're talking Clippers all-time franchise history, most three-pointers made, the top 7. What name would you like to start with?
We're going to start with JJ Redick.
JJ Redick is number 3 on the list. Over to Andrew.
Podcast P.
Podcast P is number 1 on the list. All time. Back to Law.
Jamal Crawford.
Jamal Crawford, number 4 on the list.
Wow.
Andrew. What are you thinking?
What about Chris Paul?
Chris Paul, Andrew? Did he hit a lot of threes? He sure did. Number 5 on the list. So back to Law. We only have numbers 2, 6, and 7 remaining.
2, 6, and 7. Eric Piatkowski.
Woo! Number 2 on the list. Which throws it back to Andrew. 2 names remaining.
This feels so dangerous to say.
Number 6 and number 7.
I'm going to guess Kawhi, but that just feels like so dangerous to say, but I'll say it.
So dangerous, but you're living on the edge on Shaq's birthday. And Andrew, it has paid off because Kawhi is number 6 on the list, which means for Law to get the points, you guys have to ace this. There is one name left, 7th on the list. If Law gets it, he gets the points. If he doesn't, Andrew will get 1 point.
Lou Williams.
Lou Williams. That is correct. Number 7 on the list. Law gets it. Hey, congrats to you guys. You got all 7.
Wow.
Very impressive. That's rare. So rare. Now, unfortunately for you, Andrew, you are now down 6-2. But you do have control of the board.
I feel like I accomplished something there, but got nothing for it. Number 3.
You accomplished an entertaining answer for the rest of us. This is great news for you, Andrew. You could get 3 points on this question. Okay, so listen closely.
Okay.
Ivica Zubac, averaging 12.5 rebounds per game this season. Only 3 other Los Angeles Clippers have averaged at least that many rebounds over a full season. Who are they? You get 1 point per correct answer.
Oh, boy.
And these are Los Angeles Clippers, so no San Diego Clippers, no Buffalo Braves. Los Angeles Clippers.
DeAndre
is 1 for 1 point.
What about Elton Brand?
Elton Brand, Andrew, that is incorrect, which means Law, you have a chance to steal 2 points.
No.
Really ruin Andrew's day.
No.
Give me the question again.
Not on Shaq's birthday.
So there are 3 other Clippers, other than Zubac, who have averaged at least 12.5 rebounds per game for a full season. One of them is DeAndre Jordan. Right. There are 2 more.
Man, the San Diego part is going to kill me, but I'm not trying to waste my time here. So let's.
Well, they can't be a San Diego Clipper.
Right. So
they have to be.
Swin Nader.
Excuse me.
That's already a bad sign right there.
That is incorrect.
All right,
Andrew, you're gonna beat yourself up over this.
No, please don't. What? Who is it?
The first name, one of our faves, the Caveman, Chris Kaman.
That was like, yes, I thought of him.
And the other one, Andrew. This might have professional ramifications for you the next time you show up to a Thunder game, because of course it is Michael Cage. Michael Cage. Yeah.
Shout out to Cage. He has the best rebounding stories Like he's got like a few in his back pocket about like different things that happened, like winning the rebounding title back in the day. It's amazing. Yeah.
Well, that is the best story because you hear about that like last day of the season trying to get the point, like the scoring title.
Yeah.
But there actually was that for the rebounding title, which I just think is so funny.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing.
Okay, Law, you have control of the board. You have control of the game, if we're being honest. 2 questions to go.
4.
Question number 4. What is Nicholas Batum's career high in points? Now, you get to choose who answers first. You can make Andrew answer first and then go higher or lower, or you can answer first and Andrew will go higher or lower. If either of you get it exactly correct, you do get a bonus point. So something to consider if you know what Nicholas Batum's career high is.
Andrew, you got this, buddy.
All right, Andrew, this is a big one. You could get a bonus point if you nail this.
I'll say 33.
Okay, Andrew has set the bar at 33. Law, would you like to go higher or lower?
I'm going to go lower.
Andrew, you were within 2 points of Batum's career high. And the correct answer is 35, which means Andrew gets the point. Now, this is huge news because that makes the game 6-4. Going into the final question, Andrew has control of the board, which means, Andrew, if you get this, it'll be a tie game, and I will have to come up with a tiebreaker question on the spot.
Wow.
So here we go. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah.
The Clippers have had trouble holding on to the ball this season. Their turnover percentage ranks 27th in the league. The last time the Clippers' turnover percentage was that bad was the 2010-2011 season. Who led the Clippers in total turnovers that season?
Oh, my word.
2010-2011. Total
10-11.
turnovers.
10-11. Oh, my gosh, Al. So this is... Okay. Was it Blake?
We are going into overtime because that is absolutely correct. Game is tied 6-6. Wow, it was Blake Griffin. I thought I might throw you off like with a Baron Davis. You know, he was there half the season. I think they traded him that season. Okay, so we are going to go with a new question. Oh, you know what? This will be great. How about we just do franchise record top 10 for most turnovers, and I'll give away the number 1. It's Blake Griffin. Okay, Blake Griffin has had the most amount of turnovers in Clippers franchise history. So we are going to name the other 9. So, Law, why don't you start us off with a name?
Going to go with Chris Paul.
That is correct. He is number 9, which is pretty impressive that he's
very
Okay, Andrew.
What about Elton Brand?
Elton Brand, number 6.
Yes.
Back to Law.
Let's see. So we got Blake, we got Elton Brand, we got Chris Paul, right? Mm-hmm. He played enough. Let's throw Paul George on there.
Paul George is not on the list for most turnovers, which means Andrew has won the week. Now, Andrew, can you name anyone else who's going to be your next name?
Yes. I was actually going to say DeAndre, just because he played there for so long.
He's number 8 on the list.
Yes.
The other names, number 10, Ron Harper. Number 7, Danny Manning. Number 5, Benoit Benjamin. Number 4, Chris the Caveman Kamen.
Oh,
number 3, Gary Grant. We got any Gary Grant fans? And number 2, Corey Maggette.
Corey Maggette.
Yeah,
oh
Corey
my
Maggette.
gosh.
He was actually very close to being number one. So that I'm sure that was tough for him to lose out because Blake only ended up passing him by 13 turnovers in his career.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's
wow,
wild.
what a game. What a game. What a match of Andrew versus the beat.
Go read Law at The Athletic. He's obviously writing about the Clippers, but he's also doing power rankings. He's doing like really thoughtful pieces. Like I had mentioned earlier, he wrote this piece about like style of play, which I thought was really cool. And they talked about it on the NBA Daily last week. And it was seriously, I told the guys this after that. I think that was one of the most compelling segments of the show that we've had all season. So go read that. Go read everything Law does at The Athletic. Law, thanks for coming on.
Hey, thank you guys.
All right, Andrew, that was Clippers week. Another week where a team generally didn't have a good time while being on the wheel of fandom. So this is bad news for whoever's picked this week, because next week we're going to have Sam Vecini on, which means that this next team will get a solid 2 weeks of wheel of fandom attention. We continue to have a nice mix of teams we want to watch and teams we have no interest in seeing. I'm hoping we get a good team, although it could ruin this team's season. So let's see who we get. Let's spin the wheel. Our Wheel of Fandom team for the next 2 weeks is going to be the San Antonio Spurs. We got the Spurs without Wemby. We could have gotten them, I don't know, a month and a half ago when it seemed like they might be making a run to the play-in. But we've gotten them now. So we'll be watching Steph Castle. He's he's become the Rookie of the Year favorite.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
What else?
De'Aaron Fox.
Andrew? What else?
De'Aaron
Fox. Okay.
Sohan.
It's your guy?
Sure. It's my guy. That's good.
Let me just see if they're playing any entertaining games. Might help us out.
The problem is, like, what is an entertaining game for the Spurs moving forward is my question.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what does that even look like? What would be one where you're like, man, I'm just...
my gosh.
Like, if they weren't a wheel team...
Listen to what the games are. Okay.
Oh, no.
At Sacramento. Okay, solid.
That
at
could
Minnesota,
be entertaining, actually.
Solid.
Yeah.
Then 2 games, Monday and Wednesday, against the Dallas Mavericks.
No way. There's something entertaining about that.
Actually,
the De'Aaron Fox homecoming to Sacramento, which is
that's true.
That's probably the only one that you could circle as entertaining moving forward. And then you got like the Spurs Mavs could be like
that's kind of entertaining, a tank battle, sort of
terrible bad basketball. Yeah. Oh boy.
Oh, all right. So 2 weeks. I only gave you a week. Yeah, we get another week of games.
I was going to say, there's another week in there. Like, buckle up for Charlotte, New Orleans, and then I guess that's it. Yeah, rough. For the Mavericks, though, we get to see the Mavs. Anthony Davis has been cleared for more dynamic on-court movements, is what the Mavs have said.
What is that?
I don't know. And Derek Lively's now doing individual court work. So, and Daniel Gafford will be reevaluated again in 2 weeks. So, more dynamic on-court movements. Ooh,
excited to see that.
Sounds a little bit like dancing. Hey, one thing that you can do to help our show is leave a 5-star review, and we'll read it on the podcast, just like this one from Quaz Plem X. I don't know what this is. I'm sorry. There's a lot of letters in here, but thank you for leaving this review. It says, love Saturday Slam and Jam. Saturday Slam and Jam is the best basketball podcast ever. Really enjoy the recap and then the trivia. Also, please let me play with you guys in NBA Fantasy next season with some prayer hands there. Please. He's saying, please.
Wow.
Thank you so much for that review. Please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Again, we'll read it on the show. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy the basketball, and we will talk to you guys again next week.